Welcome back, everyone. In this segment, I'm going to make my prediction for tomorrow night's game. As I've said earlier, the Ravens' defense is particularly down this year. For the second consecutive year, at least, they're down in pass defense. They're also a little bit down in run defense. However, I think, as I said, a lot of this has to do with the opening game against the Bills, because I think we know that their defense is not the second worst defense in the NFL, which statistically right now through 2 weeks it is. I mean, if you look at last year, they were in the top 10 in 3 of the 4 categories. The only one being that they weren't was pass defense, which they've struggled with over the last few years. However, typically the way this has gone with the Lions is, with the exception of the one game they beat them in 2004, which was not in Baltimore, the Lions have struggled to run against them. Now, they did have a game years ago where Matt Stafford completed 20 consecutive passes against them, and the Lions still managed to lose. And I kind of see this being a similar circumstance where I could see where Jared Goff could throw for 350 yards against them, and I don't think that's a stretch that he would be capable of doing that, and the Lions would still not win the game. Bear in mind, the one good thing about this is this game is on a Monday night. The Ravens do not tend to play as well at home on Monday night football as they do if this was a Sunday day game. So a little bit of an advantage there for the Lions. That's why I think Jared Goff can throw for 350 yards against this Ravens defense. I think where the Lions are going to struggle, however, is in running the football. They haven't shown me yet that they can run the ball consistently. And while the Ravens don't have a good run defense, they have had a good run defense as recently as last year, where they led the league in giving up the fewest rushing yards last year. And I think that's closer to where this defense is than being middle of the pack. On the other side of it, you have Lamar Jackson, who's 2-0 against the Lions, averaging 322 yards per game. I don't see him getting to that total very easily against the Lions, though he may find a way to do that. But where the Lions are really going to have to guard against him, of course, is in him running the football, because that's where you can get a lot of yards. In the game 4 years ago at Ford Field, Lamar Jackson had 10 carries for 70 yards. Lions are going to have to really limit his rushing yards, and they're going to have to do that by keeping him in the pocket, which is a lot easier said than done because the Ravens have one heck of an offensive line. And as we know, the Lions don't have Marcus Davenport, which is going to greatly affect their pass rush. I see the Lions giving up a lot of points in this game, much like they did 2 years ago. And while their defense has improved, if you cannot get much of a pass rush against a great quarterback like Lamar Jackson, it usually ends up resulting in a team scoring a lot of points against you, and it ends up being really a recipe for disaster as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but no, I don't see the Lions winning this game, unfortunately, as much as I would like to in snapping their Baltimore Raven, or snapping their losing streak in Baltimore against the Ravens. I just don't see it happening. At least not tomorrow. And that will do it for this special edition of the Detroit Lions tomorrow. If you're out working, try not to work too hard. If you're out having fun, enjoy it, and especially if you're watching the Chiefs-Giants game right now. But whatever you do, keep it safe. I will be back in 3 weeks to preview the Lions game at that point, and I believe that's going to be against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. My name is Ed Moss. Take care, and have a wonderful rest of your night. Goodbye for now.